Every Monday is $9 Mondays over at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. Get any best bet or daily package for only $9.
Welcome to Bet On, the Monday Night Football edition. Apologies for the late start. We got a UFC superstar on our hands, Gianni Corrales. He's been great, but thank you guys for sticking with us. Let's bring in our guys, Marco and VR. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I tweeted it out yesterday. I got some not great results. I said our teasers have been saving us. My teasers have been saving me. This week was not good for Marco and I. I will take my 0-2 and bow my head. Hopefully I can make up a little ground tonight. Marco, I'll let you have the floor first, and then VR, who's helping us save a little bit of face this week.
Yeah, Kelly, best bets weren't good for me either on the show. And full disclosure, Saturday, I had a horrible day. I went 0-5. How many people are going to come on and say they went 0-5? But, that's what we do. At least I made everybody on Twitter happy, because it seems like we get more responses when we have a bad day. They just love to, come in and bash us. And you know what? For me, Kelly, and I know it's the same for you and Ace as well, we bet every single day. These are just transactions to us. It's the cost of doing business. Some days we have a good day, some days we don't. But I'm immune to the winning and losing, because I'm looking at the totals at the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year. But these guys that get pleasure in just coming in and bashing us when we have a bad day, I feel bad for them, because I feel bad not for me losing. I feel bad for the customers that lost money. And these guys really get off on seeing us lose and have no disregard for the people that do follow us religiously and lose money. So if it makes you feel better about yourself bashing us, then go ahead and do it. But we're here trying to provide free winning information. And yes, we sell picks as well. And we're trying to win for our clients there as well. And we win more than we lose. But sometimes you're going to have a bad day. We came back, we bounced back on Sunday, had a winning day for our clients. Up and down day, no question about that. I'm sure we'll talk about a couple of those outcomes. The Cleveland Brown game for one, and the Arizona Cardinal game. Yes, I was involved in both of those, one good and one bad, but I guess that's the way it should be. They balance out the bad beats, so to speak.
Marco, I'm looking at it. Our record the last 6 weeks, 19-4-1 in best bets. So, look, we're still profitable on the season. I'm not gonna, like I said, we're not gonna sugarcoat it. We got to talk about the good with the bad. I talked about it enough on Twitter, so I'm gonna let VR have the floor. Our saving grace for this week.
Well, listen, I'm glad that the college football best bet won, but I actually lost in college football on Saturday. I had a great day on Sunday. I went 9-4 in the NFL, hit my 5% play on New England, and went 5-1 in the Masters matchups and hit Dustin Johnson. Fade DeChambeau, baby. Fade DeChambeau was the call for the Masters. But more importantly, honestly, I was glad I made some really good moves by not letting my ego get in the way. And I want to bring that up because it was about the Tampa-Carolina game. And someone actually said, that shows how little he knows that he would change his mind because some sharp bet the other side. Let me tell you something. I've learned that I'm not the smartest guy in every room. In fact, I'm not the smartest guy in most rooms. And I'm okay with that because I make sure I surround myself with very smart people. And when that happens and one of those very smart people that wins long term, that actually moves these lines that we all watch with our eyes, comes in and bets not once but twice on a move, I'm going to stop and take a second look at that. And I did that with Tampa, and it worked out for me. So that's the one thing I want to tell all up-and-coming bettors, that don't be afraid to get off a play, even if at first, don't let your ego cost you money. Sometimes it's better to pay juice and get off a side completely than just say, I'm just going to let it ride now anyway. I know it upsets my subscribers because I do buybacks and they're like, shit, he gave out the other team 3 days ago. And it would be easier for me to just let it go. But it would bother my conscience. If I'm not backing it with my money, I don't want you to do it either. So if I'm buying it back, I'm going to have to tell you to buy it back also. You don't have to do it, but I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And, as a subscriber, you should be happy that I'm doing that. I'm telling you I'm getting off the game. So I had a great week. Thank God. It's been a good year. And hopefully we continue it going forward. A couple more weeks, 6 more weeks to 2020. Hopefully I don't just have a terrible 6 weeks and it turns into, have another winning year. But who knows? Next 6 weeks, I could go 0-200 for all I know. I don't know. Hopefully we don't.
Look, I really appreciate you saying that because I was kind of going round and round with a guy this morning on Twitter and he's like, but you're the so-called sharp. And I'm like, that's the word you use. That's not a word I use. And you absolutely nailed it. I knew the Seattle Seahawks was a loser probably Friday afternoon, maybe Saturday. It didn't matter. I'd already given it out on the show. I had already put it up on BetSperts and talked about it all week as my best bet. I was too arrogant to be smart enough and just to lay the Rams money line like I should have. Marco and I were texting back and forth, and I said I ended up laying the money line with the Cardinals as well as the Browns. I should have done the same thing with the Rams because I knew I was holding a losing ticket. There are a few groups out there that I am lucky enough to be privy to that information.
Exactly.
And I knew I had a loser. I knew it was, and that's why on Bleacher Report yesterday morning I said, I hate this game. Now, granted, I ended up giving out the Broncos, which was subsequently a really, really ugly loser. So I just kind of dumped it on top. But that being said, I appreciate you actually saying that because I think that's one of the things, and that's why even in the start of the show, it says betting insider. I don't want to be known as this sharp. I get great information from several bookmakers in town as well as other groups that are far smarter than me. You know why I faded Bryson DeChambeau all week, just like you just said? Hello? People that I know told me, hey, there's a possibility he may not be 100%. His driver is not going to win him the Masters, and so I bet against him in every single matchup. I gave that out on Bleacher Report and got thank yous from 3 people, but let me tell you, my best bet, I got every clown emoji possible. That being said, I appreciate you looking at that. Let's move in to the Monday night game. This one, we talked about it on Wednesday's show, how Chicago in the look-ahead number was either 2 or 1.5, depending on where you like to shop. This one opened this week. Minnesota, a 2.5-point favorite, now up to 3.5 across the board. So total, let's see, was 46.5. Now it's pretty much 44. There is 143.5 with our friends over at Pinnacle. Marco, you said you have a ton of information on this game. I know when it was 2.5. We all talked about it on Wednesday. We were going to put it in teasers. I have, I think, 6 teasers the way I round robined it, all going to the Bears. So I'm pretty heavy on the Bears plus 8.5. I think for me personally at this point, I'm probably just going to pump the brakes and let that one ride.
Yeah, or if you wanted to, you have an opportunity, Kelly, to make some of those teasers, put them to work for you, and you could hedge some of that with Minnesota, and you got a pretty big middle sitting there if you wanted to do that. A lot of times you can do that with teasers on these, end of the night games, like the Sunday night game or the Monday game where all of the other bets are final and you know where you stand on your live bets if you want to hedge a little bit and give yourself a pretty nice middle. But for this game, Kelly, when it was 2.5, obviously the play was to tease this up to 8.5, going through all the key numbers. Now that it's at 3.5, it's really not a great play on the teaser. You would say, well, why would you say that? Because you're getting even more points. Well, the points you're gaining are dead numbers. So it's not profitable. It actually becomes more of a profitable play to actually take the 3.5. And that's where I'm going to go in this game, Kelly, is I'm going to take the 3.5 because the public's going to look at this game, and it's why the line is rising. They look at Minnesota, and they see they've won 2 games in a row. They look at Chicago, and they look like they're in total free fall. They've lost 3 in a row. But let's dig a little bit deeper into what has transpired over the last few weeks. We look at Minnesota, and yeah, they've won 2 games. 2 weeks back, they came off their bye week, and they went into their bye week as ugly as they could. They lost to Atlanta 40-23. We always talk about teams coming off the bye week. If they went into the bye on a bad note, they generally come out with a good performance. Well, they did, and it was against Green Bay. Green Bay is everybody's darling and Aaron Rodgers and everything. I get that. But Green Bay was actually in a bad scheduling spot. And you're going to say, hold up, Marco. How could a division game be a bad scheduling spot for Green Bay? Well, the week before, they blew out Houston, and then they come back home to play Minnesota. They had already beaten Minnesota earlier in the year. So it was a second meeting. You beat the team on the road. You get a false sense of security that you should beat them again. But more importantly, they were playing in 4 days in San Francisco that double revenge game against the 49ers. The 49ers embarrassed them last year, not once, but twice. And the second being, of course, the NFC Championship game. So I think they caught Green Bay with a little bit of a look ahead. Now, last week, who did they play? They played the Lions. The Lions are pitiful. We make jokes about them all the time. Our poor buddy Gianni Detroit, we send him so many texts on game day, especially when they're winning. When's the collapse coming? Is it now? Third quarter, fourth quarter? It's coming. But this is a team that Detroit is a horrible defense, and Minnesota was +3 in the turnovers in that game. Yeah, they're supposed to look good against Detroit. They got a bad defense, and you're +3 in turnovers. Now let's look at the Chicago Bears. What's the narrative on the Bears? Well, their offense is no better with Nick Foles as it was with Mitchell Trubisky. And the numbers agree with that. But what I'm going to point out is look at the last 6 games that Chicago's played. 4 of the 6 games, they've played the top defenses in the NFL. They played Indianapolis, who's number 2 in yards per play allowed. They played Tampa, who's number 3. And they played the Rams, who's number 1. They also played the Saints in there, who's moved up to number 8 in yards per play. Also, look at Chicago. People are going to say, well, what about last week? They played Tennessee. Tennessee's not a good defense. That was their 3rd road game in 4 weeks. And they were coming off a gut-wrenching loss the week before in overtime against the Saints, which was on a short week because they played on a Monday the week before on the West Coast. Everything was going against Chicago. Now what do you get tonight? They're facing a bad defense. You look at the Minnesota defense. They are near the bottom of the league after facing all those top defenses. Now they're going to face the Minnesota defense that gives up a ton of yardage. Yeah, Minnesota's looked better the last 2 weeks, but I still got to look at the season numbers on this team, and they're not good. I think Chicago has success moving the football tonight, and I'm calling for the outright win with Chicago. I've got them 27-23, which means if I'm looking at the total, I would also be looking at the over in this game. And if you're playing any team props, I think the team prop on Chicago is going to be low given the total. I would also be interested in some Chicago over on the team prop. So as my buddy would say, my official play is the Chicago Bears, but I dropped some nuggets on you there. You got a little bit, not quite gold. These are just little nuggets. VR brings the big nuggets, but I threw you a couple little nuggets.
Gold-plated, Marco, gold-plated. That's okay.
Gold-plated nuggets. VR, before we get to all of your gold nuggets, I have a question here. So when I was looking at this earlier in the week, it was 2.5. Then we saw it hanging around 3. Now today it's 3.5. Can you explain to maybe some of our newer listeners what that move means, and then go into your lucky charms?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Kelly. And please, guys, if you have questions, ask them for these shows. I just don't have time to answer the DMs and the replies. I wish I did. And, you guys deserve these answers to the questions you have. I'd love to answer them and help point you in the right direction. There's just not enough time to address everyone. So if you address one, you got to address them all. So please don't take it personally, and ask some of those questions for these shows so we could address them for everyone, because a lot of you are asking a lot of the same stuff. Now, real quickly, and this game is a perfect example of a difference of opinion between winning bettors. And the point spread means everything, because guys that win long term, it sounds cliche, and I know in today's world with gambling Twitter, there's so many new people entering the industry, and everyone's talking, throwing out the verbs and the nouns and all the words that we use, I think a lot of times they don't understand the words they're using, meaning that they're saying the right stuff, but they don't really understand what those words actually mean, what they're saying. In this game, this line opened 2.5. And at 2.5, I can tell you with 100% certainty that there was sharp money on Minnesota. That's the only reason my subscribers don't have pending teasers open with the Chicago Bears, because Marco and you both nailed it, that this set up for the perfect teaser when we did our show on Wednesday. They were at plus 2.5. You tease them up through 3 through 7. You get Chicago at 8.5. That's what I would have done. I would have set up a couple teasers like I did last Monday night, and we middled the New England Chicago game. And I would have aimed for this as well. But unfortunately, I saw sharp guys that I respect on Minnesota at 2.5. Now at 3.5, I also see guys who win long term like Chicago. These are two completely different bets. Yes, they are betting the same game, but at two very, very different numbers. And this is what separates winning bettors from casual bettors, that a winning bettor will see the difference, will try to get the best of that key number, meaning the 3 and the 7 are so important that the value actually changes when it goes through those numbers. Very few positions are going to be so true that you could lay minus 2.5 and also lay minus 4.5 and still be on the right side. That's rarely ever going to happen. In fact, that's where I knew I was wrong with.
Did we lose VR? Oh, there he is. He's back.
We're able to middle that Buffalo Arizona game, but I saw a mistake. It didn't happen with the Eagles game. The Eagles line was supposed to go to 5, 5.5, and the square shops, the FanDuels of the world, the DraftKings of the world should have been at 6. If that would have happened yesterday, I'm telling you, Philly would have been a real strong steam move. The fact it didn't have it happen means there was resistance. And that's what we're seeing here. Resistance on the Minnesota side. And when it went back to 3, you're not seeing the guys who laid 2.5 now willing to lay that 3. So I think the case of the Minnesota side was getting out ahead of a key number, 3. I think the Chicago money that's coming in, those guys are following their power ratings, because just a few weeks ago, they had game of the year lines out. You could bet Monday night game 4 weeks from now. You could walk into Westgate and bet it. This line had Chicago at minus 3. So Chicago was favored in this game just a few weeks back. I even have it here, their game of the year lines, and they were 3-point favorites. So I think the Minnesota side is power rated. I mean, Chicago side is power rated. I think the Minnesota side is those short bettors getting out ahead of a key number. And again, if you could get a minus 2.5 in your pocket and the game closes 3, 3.5, long term, you're making decent bets. It's a ticket you want to have. Trust me when I tell you that. As far as a pick on this game, I haven't bet it. I bet 5 college football games for this week, 5 4% plays, 3 NFL games, and 2 UFC 255 plays. I haven't bet the Monday night game yet. Like I said, I have 2 conflicting opinions from groups I respect. Personally, I leaned to the Chicago side myself. If I have to bet this game, gun to my head, I haven't bet it again yet. I like the over. I agree with Marco here. You have 2 teams that, at least on paper, seem to have good defenses. And I always say that's usually a perfect storm for an over. When coupled with really good or really bad special teams. And what we have here are really bad special teams. That's why we may see some short fields, some turnovers, and that is usually the perfect storm for points. Because good defenses, you shade the line towards the under, and you couple that with short fields, turnovers, and like I said, sometimes you have that perfect storm for the over. So not to go on a rant, I like the over 44. I haven't bet it yet. It seems square. Looking in the back end right now, I can tell you the books are heavier on the Bears that I'm looking at right now. A little bit heavier, Not surprising at 3.5. Now it's 3, and a little heavier on the over. But I think when this game kicks off, the books are going to have good balance. They're probably going to need the under when it's said and done. It's a primetime game. You have public money and even some sharp on the over. Probably books will need the under. But that's pretty much what I'm seeing on this game. Again, if this game was on Sunday and you wouldn't bet it, you shouldn't bet it tonight. Meaning if this game was on the board yesterday and you weren't going to use it in your card, you shouldn't use it tonight just because it's up there. There's games tomorrow. There's games Wednesday. There's a full board Saturday. There's a full board Sunday. Protect your bankroll. You got to lay 11 to 10. Remember, every time you place a bet, you are paying to play. It's not free to gamble. You are paying to play every time you place a bet. Remember that. There's an admission fee. That's 11 to win 10. So make sure you want to go in before you pay that admission fee. Or else, just look from the outside like Ace does. I just look for free. Just look through the windows. You don't have to pay for the pay-per-view. You don't have to bet it. Just do it the cheap way. So me, I pass the night. If you bet it, good luck.
All right, good luck. There we are. Hey, well, we needed to save that for Wednesday when he's actually giving us gold. No, I agree with VR. I don't think the line moved to 3.5 does make me really nervous. I hope Marco's right. I hope I don't have to sweat my teaser. I hope that the Chicago Bears win this game outright. But I am with Marco, though. I started looking while VR was talking. That team total over 20.5 for the Chicago Bears. I threw a little nugget on there. I do like that. I do think that this is going to be hovering around the total. It'll probably go over because it's a primetime game, and that's what seems to happen whenever I lean towards the under. So I did take the over there in the Bears, and good luck, as VR said. Go ahead, VR. You had something to say.
Jets plus 9.5. I hear might be a good bet next week. And Florida International plus 8.5. Two good bets next week.
Okay, you throw the leprechaun up there and we get Nuggets, Florida International, and the Jets. Thank you guys for tuning in Monday's edition of Bet On It, and we will see you guys in less than 48 hours for the regular Bet On It show.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.